delivering clear, concise, and entertaining content on demand. This is SharperTalkMedia.com. Join the community. Welcome to Higher Up, the podcast designed to help you take your business to a higher level.
Get the latest news and updates on everything human resources.
Unlock the occupational DNA so you can identify, select, develop, and retain top talent.
And now, your host, John Beck.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Higher Up, the podcast devoted to everything human resources and taking your organization to a higher level. Excited about what's going on today. We have a very special guest in studio at Sharper Talk Studios. Our guest today is Vice Chancellor of Workforce Development at River Parishes Community College. He has been a learning and performing professional for over 23 years in petrochemical, food processing, steel manufacturing, telecommunications, and construction across the southern U.S. He is a performance consultant and Lean Six Sigma Black Belt with a passion for creating high-performance cultures and aligned systems to optimize organizational process and people potential. He serves on the graduate facility at the University of Southern Mississippi Jack Patty Phillips Work Learning and Performance Institute and has been an adjunct professor at LSU for 15 years, specializing in learning, performance, and HRD. He earned an MS and PhD from Louisiana State University, where he focused on learning styles, training, organizational development, leadership, and building high-performance team cultures. He is very active in ASTD, serves as Baton Rouge chapter president for 2 separate terms, the board of directors for 8 years, program chair for Mississippi Gulf Coast Lighthouse chapter, and membership chair for the North Alabama chapter. He serves in various capacities with ASTD-CI since he earned his CPLP designation in 2006. Bruce Wagesback, welcome to the show.
Hey, John. It's nice to be here.
We're glad to have you. You're at River Parishes.
That's right. So all the things that you said about my career is wonderful, but at this point, I'm bringing all that experience to River Parishes Community College, where we focus on creating a comprehensive community college to serve the industry in the area.
Man, that's fantastic. And I tell you what, I have not been in the facility, but I've been by the facility, and it is outstanding, state of the art.
Absolutely. We have a new technical training center being built now, and it's going to have a operating plant that BSF donated to us. We're retrofitting it for instructional purposes, and we really set up to do some really good work for the industry.
That's fantastic. One of the leading sites probably in the South from what I've seen.
We want it to be that way.
Well, that's great. So, Bruce, we're here today to talk about a subject that you sent over to me. If I would have barked these words out, over the air, which we're about to do, I'm sure we're going to get an awesome response. Training don't work. What are we talking about when we talked about the topic? You said, John, I got something great I want to talk about, and it's, John, training don't work.
Well, it usually gets people's attentions and lifts a few eyebrows. So I've been doing this for quite some time now, and I can attest that much training that I've done did not work.
Right.
And really, the accurate way to talk about it is that training by itself doesn't work. That's really the premise. If we're really focusing on performance, and we think that training is the only solution to get to performance, we probably operate on a myth.
Right. I'm going to let the audience in on a little tidbit. It's the premise for what your book is going to be titled, as it's in its stages of writing. Training don't work, right?
That's correct. So the book is going to be that title, and then we're going to basically unfold or unpack the theory, or I guess the model that I've created from multiple experiences and reading and research, called the System of Performance.
Wow, System of Performance. So you mentioned something earlier to me, and what is an organization expecting when they look to embark with employee training or employee development? What are they actually looking for?
So they may be asking for training, and many times that's exactly what they're asking for, but they really want performance. So the training won't work if we did the training, we still didn't get performance.
Right.
It could be that we can actually get performance without doing any training.
Now that is that's another little curveball right there. I mean, you don't hear trainers saying that, right?
Right. I probably shouldn't be saying that.
Well, let's just talk about that. When you say, hey, we can get performance, but not necessarily through training, I guess that leads into the system of performance. Is that where we're going down the path? Your coined term, system of performance?
Absolutely. So there's multiple strategies that we can use to get performance. And in your career, you've worked in that area your whole career, as long as I've been knowing you.
Right.
We're saying, look, hire the right person and make sure it's a good fit. And we have a better predictability of them actually performing in that job. Mm-hmm. So it's that same line, that same paradigm from which we operate in here when we talk about the system of performance.
Right. You've broken that system down, and I know there's a lot of moving parts to it. I say a lot. I mean, it's in a great outline, but there are some moving parts. So you call it the big three, or what do you have?
Right. The 3 Ps. So
the 3 Ps.
There's physical, there's process, and there's people. And each one of those has system components that basically make up that. So let's just talk about physical for now.
All right.
The kind of easy ones that you would assume would be there.
So you're saying when someone's saying, hey, we need to bring in training for our organization, you'll back up a minute and say, well, let's look at the system of performance, and let's look at these categories, these 3 Ps, and then take each one, because you might increase performance at a great rate or without embarking. So the first one is physical. So what are we talking about?
Going back again to saying they want training. Well, we need to make sure that a simple one is that making sure they have the resources, right? So I remember back in the day when I worked with a particular organization, we did some computer skills training, and it was wonderful training. It was very good. The person went back and they did not have the software on their computer. Training didn't work.
Training didn't work. That's right. That's right. Huh?
The person needed the resources to be able to go and implement the new skills that they learned in the training. Mm-hmm. So that's just a simple example of one category, resources.
Which is a physical.
Yeah. Absolutely. Then the other one is information. Mm-hmm. If we expect people to make decisions on the job, they need standard operating procedures. They need information that will help them make that decision or complete that task correctly.
Right.
Again, pretty simple, but many times not part of the workplace.
Which are all affecting the performance of the individual. So what happens is management's not seeing the performance occurring. So the first knee-jerk reaction is, we need training. We need everyone trained. And I deal with that type of thing. It's amazing. I never really thought about it the way you're presenting it, which is fantastic. So it really brings it up open to say, hey, look at these different elements, take the physical, evaluate the situation, make sure everyone has the tools they need and information they need to be successful, and then where we go next.
So there's a kind of a combination one that's kind of physical and process. So that the second P would be process. Mm-hmm. But to kind of transition from that, we look at design and alignment. The work itself may not be aligned with what the expectations are. If a person has to multitask and they are overwhelmed with the work that's happening, we can't expect them to perform that job. Just the organizational work from alignment with goals and
right.
You can't have an individual serve 2 masters, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of times you get it in safety. Like you'll see that we say safety is the most important thing to us.
Right.
Really, safety is as long as we make in production.
Right. I was about to say, yeah, and I come across that a lot. So yeah, we want you to be safe, and safety's job one. We need to get the job done.
So there may be some physical components of that to where we make sure that people have that guidance and that information, but also the process of making sure we have conversations and making sure that our employees really are aligned with the goals and objectives of the work that needs to be done.
So the process is the second P.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct.
And then that brings us to the third P, which is the people, which is probably, would you say, is that the difficult one? Or
we're going to get to those. Everybody wants to jump to the people.
I know.
And the other 2 process things are basically accountability. So if we create the expectations, this is what I want you to do, and they do it, they should get feedback. You think about a coaching model where basically an individual does the task correctly or swings the bat correctly, they get feedback. Well done. Do that again.
Speaking of process and accountability and feedback, I want you to share with the audience your son. Is he a junior? How old is he?
Cody is a sophomore. He's 15 years old.
Okay, he's 15 years old. You went through a process of what he does, which he rodeos. I want you to just give the audience that little story you told me the other day at the Louisiana Governor's Safety Council meeting. You mentioned to me a process that you went through with him to help him improve his performance. And it's not training, it was just going through it. So share with the audience what you went through that process.
Yeah, so first off, this little guy is pretty passionate about calf roping. I mean, he is, and it's a sport that you can improve every single run. And what I do at Cody is coach him in a way to help him, first off, understand what he did right and what he can do better. And he has multiple coaches that helped him. Basically, people offer up free coaching because he's very focused and wants to get better.
Right.
But one thing that I do to help him is to not let him blame anything on missing a calf, for instance.
Right.
It's not the calf, it's not the weather, it's not the rope, it's not the horse, it's you who did not catch the calf. It's just that simple. The performance didn't happen. And so he's very reluctant to blame his performance on other things that you don't have control over.
But y'all went through an itemized step, and y'all, that's what I wanted you to touch on. So y'all went through, was that calf used before? What was the braid? What was all of those factors. How many points did you say y'all ended up that he has no control over?
That's right. It was a bunch of things he has no control over. And while you need to recognize those, what the focus needs to be on what you have control over.
Right.
It's not only with calf roping, obviously, it's many other things. When you stop even looking at coaching employees, the same process can really help.
Yeah, what do you have to focus on and what can you do? His performance continues to improve because he's driven and he's got a process in place.
He was a 15.4, which was good for him, his personal best last weekend. Then last night we practiced and he had some coaching from a person who actually has been on the PRCA circuit.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's great. Well, he's going to have to listen to the podcast because you just got a few seconds of good PR. So that brings us to what, Bruce? We just went through the accountability.
So we have accountability and feedback. Those are kind of two areas in the process part where, an organization could build in a process where they learn from all experiences. Accountability and feedback are both kind of the same. If a person's, here's kind of a perspective.
Right.
If a person got paid for doing the work, whether they did it right or wrong, they got rewarded.
That's right. They got paid.
That they got paid. And in their mind, I must have did it right because, I got paid.
I got checked.
So their feedback was not intentional, but that's exactly what they got from that. On accountability, if job's not being done right, or a person needs to be told it's not being done correctly and here's the right way to do it. So accountability and coaching feedback kind of fit together. And organizations can do a lot in that area. It's supervisory type work that needs to be done. Yes.
You mentioned something earlier to me this morning in our prep meeting, and that was catching an employee doing something right. The feedback is just as critical as it is if they're having a trouble with a particular task, because if you're not refocusing or encouraging the correct performance track that they're doing it right, they may not even know, and so it can hinder performance. Yeah. Even when they're doing it right.
Absolutely. I had an opportunity to work with an organization that had to rebuild itself after a pretty serious incident, and in rehiring the workforce, we installed that process. So we had a lot of new people, and those new people needed to know, yes, right, no, wrong. This is the way you do it right. And actually, it became part of the culture. And it becomes a very supportive culture because nobody really wants to do the task wrong.
Right.
They'd love to do it right. So it's just a discipline that you would implement.
Yeah.
So.
Does that lead us to the side? That's my side. So
I intentionally put it last because many times we go straight to the person or the people, the third P. Because we believe, and it's wonderful that we believe we can help them and we can invest in them and that kind of thing. However, when you look at an individual, they're either going to be motivated to do the job, they're not. When you look at just motivation, they motivated towards something because they want the reward, or away from something because they do not want the punishment. Right.
Right. That's right.
So it's toward or away from motivation. I mean, your assessments actually help us understand where
That's
a
right.
person's, where's the MO, right?
Yes, exactly right. That's right. We do. We look at that. When we talk about the people side, and you're right, when organization looks for training, it seems like they skip right through physical and process and go straight to the people. And how many times in your 20-year career have you come across where, just like in the computer situation, train them on the software, they get back to the office, it's not on their computer. But how many times that we give intensive training to people thinking that that's the fix, and we find out that it could have been on a physical process.
Right. And some of those things can actually impact like motivation, for instance. I mean, you think about it, if a person has all the resources they need to do the job, they don't have an excuse. They have what they need. And hopefully that gives them a motivating thing. The company cares enough about me to give me the resources I need. Right. They care enough about me to tell me this is why I'm doing this task.
Right.
That would contribute to motivation as well.
I think every time we open up the show at Higher Up and we, have a guest on, we're always looking for that nugget. And I think today, without a doubt, one of the most important things that I've taken away so far, and as we're getting into this, is I've always tended to go right to the people. I would say a high majority of my clients go right to the people. Without the proper physical and process portions in place, or looking and reviewing those aspects, Bruce, you're so right, spot on. Because that will affect like you just went over. I mean, it affects the motivation. It affects all these other elements of the people.
Correct.
So we really have it backwards. And the way you've put this in, I'm telling you, folks, and I'm going to tell you, Bruce has coined it, and that's the system of performance, and training don't work. I think it's spot on.
So that last one, John, is competency, or
right?
Knowledge and skills. And truly, that is the only thing we can expect training to impact.
Yeah.
While it may be motivating for a person to learn new skills, it's demotivating when they go back to the workplace and there's no alignment, there's no resources, there's no information, those kinds of things, right? We want to go to training, and I mean, whether we like it or not, and we want it to accomplish so much, the only thing it's going to impact is knowledge and skills.
Yeah. No, and you are right on. I mean, I'm a firm believer in that. I've always said you hire on skill and you fire on fit. You train for skill. It's very hard to train behavioral and all the other factors that come in. And that when you're doing training, you can train an individual in knowledge and processes and skill sets. But other types of training is very difficult to do. Behavior modification or these other things that you're trying to change people. It's very difficult to change someone.
Right. So when we go with the training solution, we need to make sure the other system components are present as well. And normally that's a management move that needs to be made. It takes management support to create a system that supports people to be able to win and not set them up to fail.
Wow.
I mean, you may have heard that before, but I've seen it over and over in my career where people are truly set up to fail. And again, with my commitment and passion to help people win, that's very disappointing to me sometimes.
Right,
so
right. Yeah,
let's
exactly.
come up with this kind of model.
Yeah.
There are solutions to each one of those areas that, the learning and development field likes to call them interventions. But they're solutions. So for instance, strategic planning, understand for alignment.
Right.
Maybe using assessments to help make sure that you align the right skill set or attitudes with the type of work that you want.
Right.
Coaching. There's many, many, many solutions at each one of these system component areas.
Right.
So,
besides the work you do at River Parishes, do you do some other work in addition?
Absolutely. Mostly it would be called organizational development and performance consulting, basically.
Okay.
And I do that as well. I mean, that's how I can afford to have the job with
Right.
the state system.
That's right.
And most of the time it focuses on strategic planning. I actually have gotten fairly proficient in helping facilitate the balanced scorecard process for alignment around financial, customer, process, and people.
Right. So that's good to know. So besides the work you do, you also, as in addition to that, are available to consult with organizations in terms of looking at possibly this type of process. I would love to do with you. I think it would be great. We're going to need to put together a workshop. Training don't work. When the book's written, we'll kick off the workshops.
That'd be wonderful.
And we'll do these great workshops. You'll come in and I tell you what, we'll fill the room. because all you have to do is like training don't work, and then we go from there.
It's a catchy way to get people's attention.
I like it. I like it. For all of those of you who are looking to copy that, I could tell you Bruce has got that locked up. So I just want to mention that. But anyway, well, Bruce, you have anything else for us today? Any other information, updates, anything that's happening in the industry or trends or you're seeing, whether it be Louisiana or nationally, anything out there that just kind of resonates with you that you would want to share with the audience?
Sure. In this part of the country, there's a tremendous amount of industrial growth. And I know just from what I do on a full-time basis with the community college, we have changed our approach from kind of this is what you get to tell me what you need.
Okay.
And I know from my college and what we do is we go and ask industry, what is it that you need, and work towards designing kind of a customized solution. And typically that solution can be applied at other places as well. But
sure.
It's a begin with the end in mind perspective rather than build it and it will come.
Right. And so is that a lot of the role in what you do, going out with industry and kind of determining what their needs are and then coming back and then building that process to develop that end product? And when I say, we're treating it like a product, but they are. I mean, it's a product of the school. So designing those core studies around the need.
That's correct. Yeah.
What a great way to do it, right?
Well, and you could bet that what I do is make sure that I help them look at their system, because there again, if they're looking at training as the only solution, it's probably not going to work.
Yeah.
So, I'm really interested in helping organizations and individuals. I mean, I hope organizations kind of hit the nail on the head and help organizations buy into that process. And that way people win.
Yeah. Well, that's good stuff. Bruce, as always, you can go to www.hrhigherup.com and you'll see the latest podcast there. And on that podcast, you'll see Training Don't Work podcast. You'll be able to click on that. There'll be show notes on that podcast, as well as contact information, ways to reach out to me and Bruce if you would like to have more information on the topic. I want to thank you, Bruce, for taking the time out of your busy day. I know you're rolling 100 miles an hour with everything you have going on, but we want to thank you.
I appreciate it, John. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, there you have it, folks. Another great episode of Higher Up with our good friend, Bruce Wagasback. Thank you for listening. And remember, HRHigherUp.com, Higher Up Podcast, taking your organization to a higher level.
Thanks for listening to Higher Up with John Beck.
For show notes, updates, and more on how to break the code to unlocking occupational DNA,
Join the community at hrhigherup.com.
and take your business to this has been an exclusive production of SharperTalkMedia.com. Join the community.
That's a wrap.